You're listening to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by machinists. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson from Proteum Machining, and this week I am joined by Melissa Ramos of M95 Machining. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi.
So, for anybody who doesn't follow you on Instagram or anything, who are you? What does M95 do? Where can they find you? All that good stuff.
Okay, so I'm Melissa. I'm a 27-year-old machinist. I'm located in California. I'm in the Bay Area. I have my Instagram that I have quite a bit of following, I like to think. M95 Machining. I have my YouTube channel now that's, getting started. I want to work on it a lot more than I do, but I get really busy, so I'm hoping to catch up with that. That is Machining with Mel. I also have my TikTok now, Machining with Mel, that we're trying to get into. And my LinkedIn, is my name, Melissa Ramos. But it's just so hard to keep up with every avenue of like every social media corner. But I think it's especially important for me now because that's how I gain my customers. I don't go out and like do sales. I used to work for my dad before, starting my own business, and I've done sales for him. And, that's how people do it, get customers, go out and do sales. But marketing myself through Instagram, especially, and through LinkedIn, things like that is how I gain my customers.
Definitely.
So that's really important to me. Yeah.
So, what kind of industries do you serve as M95? What kind of stuff are you focused on?
So I do a bit of prototyping for Tesla. My dad is a fabricator, so I do all of his machining for his stuff. His biggest customer is electric buses and commuter buses, so we do a lot of those parts. He also does a lot of like PCP boards and computer parts for Intel and things like that. So any of those machining components, I do. Um, he also, one of his other biggest customer, they do laptop vending machines. So if you go to college and you want to rent out a laptop or even a charger, he makes like all the shells that you see on the outside, and I make some of the parts that go on the inside that allow the laptop to release, and get returned and all those fun stuff. So it's pretty cool working together and then seeing, okay, this is what these parts do. I can go to their shop and they're like, oh, this is why we need it like this. This is why, it has this chamfer, blah blah. It's it's really cool. So, but I mean, there was also this man recently that came into the shop and he said, "Hey, I saw your YouTube video. I really want to help you. I love your story. Can you modify these acrylic parts for me? Like, I'll be back in 2 days." And he talked to me for like an hour telling me his story. And I was like, okay, like sweating outside. I was like looking at these parts. I was like, yeah, yeah. And he said, so these are part of a fixture. I just need you to fix these. Open up this pocket, open up this. And I'm like looking at him and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. No pressure, no pressure. But sure, I'll do them.
Yeah, modifications are always the most stressful. You're like, oh, somebody's already put time and money into this. I can't screw it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's get into your backstory then. How did you come to own your own business? How did you gain all your skills to be where you are and all that?
So like I said, I started working for my dad, and he is a fabricator. So he has 3 buildings in the Bay Area, and I started coming with him since I was 14, and just coming with him on Saturdays, watching him program, sitting in his office, following him around sometimes. But I was coming in like I had nothing to do on Saturdays. I wanted extra money, and he'd just give me simple tasks like, hey, here's 100 screws, put 10 screws in each bag for an assembly, for Intel or whatever. And so we started like that. And then I got a little bit older, going on to the press break, working all summers, and then doing hardware, then doing shipping. And he just bounced me around everywhere. And it was a job that I liked, but I was never passionate about sheet metal. Like, there's nothing really interesting about it. I mean, I know the ins and out of everything, that goes on here, but it was just something that just didn't really catch my attention. And I think my dad has 4 kids, including me, and I think he's always wanted us to be here at the shop, and I'm the only one that really likes being here. So I started machining 5 years ago, and I think I was on vacation, but before that I told him like, hey dad, like I don't want to go to school anymore. Like, it's not for me. I don't feel like I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. And I sat through the classes, already almost being the only woman in the class, but I wanted to rebuild car engines. and just build car engines. But it was going to take me like, I don't know, like 5 years to get to, or more, to get to where I wanted. I thought if I walked into this engineering class, like I was already going to start rebuilding car engines. But no, obviously it wasn't like that. And so I told my dad, like, hey, like, I don't really want to go to school. I was also taking CAD classes, and I liked the CAD classes. And I knew that I would see the prints, and I'm like, okay, like I see this at the shop all the time. And like, this is like what my dad does. And so I like that part of it. And I told him I don't really want to go to school, give me a better position at the shop. And he said, okay, like, I'll see. And I was in shipping and receiving for a while and delivering parts too. And then he finally got the CNCs, and I had never seen a CNC before. Or I would go deliver parts, and I would see them, but I didn't know what they did. And he said, hey, like I bought these machines. If you like this, and if I see that you're actually genuinely interested, I will help you open up your own shop. And I said, okay. I was about like, I think I was about 20, turning 21, so I was still like going out with my friends, like going to school, not going to school, like trying to figure out life too. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, he's just saying that. Of course, like, yeah, right. He's not going to help me open up my own shop. But we he started programming using HSM Works, and then I just started running the machines kind of blindly, like not knowing what to do. Tools were crashing, spindle was crashing.
No,
It was
no.
such a it was such a nightmare. And he would run out of his office and just, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know what I did." And we did that for a while. He didn't know how to program, machine parts, and he didn't know how to use HSM Works, but just trial and error between the both of us. Like eventually I got the hang of it, and I decided to open up my own shop because he told me, hey, he was paying me $20 an hour. And he said, hey, like, I'm not going to pay you anymore. And his friends would come to me and be like, offer me like $50 an hour, $60 an hour. Because now, like, I was already programming my parts. I was basically doing everything by myself, ordering tools, everything. And I was like, Dad, like, give me a raise. He's like, no, like, I already told you, like, now it's up to you. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to stick here with $20 an hour? Or are you going to leave and be a worker bee? Because I was getting job offers from like Apple and Facebook. And of course, I would have been like, at Apple, I would have been the first woman machinist in the shop and women of color. So I was like, that would open so many doors for me, but it would extend my commute by another hour. And I would have to work like, I think it was like 60 hours a week starting. And
Right.
again, I didn't know if I was like ready for that. And my dad never had a problem. He's like, go, if you want to go, they're offering you more money, go. But you're always going to be a worker bee. And so I
Right.
always had that at the back of my mind. And he was like, I know you like to take Fridays off. I know you like to leave early or like work, 10 hours one day and work 5 hours the next. He was like, you're not going to be able to do that, if you go somewhere else. And I'm like, damn, like he's so right. So it was kind of like, all right, like, am I going to stay here or am I just going to do this? So everything was happening during COVID, and I started filing, for all my LLC paperwork and getting all my numbers and all my, all my numbers ready and everything. And, that took like about a month. And so I had all my paperwork ready, but I wasn't ready to just start branching off, finding customers and doing all of that. And then I went on a trip to Colorado for my birthday, and I came back and I was like, hey, like, Dad, I'm not going to clock in anymore for you. And he was like, oh, you're just going to work by yourself? I was like, yeah. He was like, all right, good for you. And I was like, all right, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it'll either work or it won't work. Right. And it's literally like been a year and like 2 weeks or something. And I'm getting sponsorships now. I'm going on like free trips. I love machining. I'm learning something new every day. Honestly, I'm really happy that I stuck with this and I'm here now.
Yeah, that's killer. So, what machinery do you have?
I have a Haas VF2 SS and a Haas VF3 SS. And now, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I just got an AX2 Duo, a Trinity system, those
Uh,
robotic arms.
yeah, I saw it. It looks really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I'm really excited.
So, how did that all come about? Or were you needing more capacity, or talking to the people at Trinity? That seems like a really excellent way to, give you more capacity being just a single person shop.
Yeah, yeah. No, so that's like, so they sponsored me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they actually reached out to me and I met with the Trinity team a couple of times, and originally they had offered me to move my machines and my shop into their building. and, like kind of like rent free, like rent out of here and like, do YouTube
Right.
for us. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But again, it would have extended my commute by about an hour. So I was like, no. And then they said, hey, so what if we bring a Trinity to you and we help you find work and we bring in a customer, one or two customers a week to just see it. And, you talk about the duo and you kind of explain to them how it works. So I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds sounds like a great deal.
Right.
And so I get to have it for free for about 5 months. And then after that, they either put a new model on the floor or I buy it or they take it back.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's
It,
pretty cool.
I know I've had Brian from CAD Models on, and he's got some
Hmm.
Trinities, and he seems to love them. So I'm looking
Oh,
forward to seeing what
yeah.
you do with them.
Me too. I'm a job shop, so it's interesting. I have like one or two, production runs, but I can set up like 15 different jobs and then just click go and it'll do all of them, one part at a time or 10 or 100, whatever. So you don't necessarily have to do production runs in it.
Right. How many pallets does it hold? Because it's a pallet changer instead of
Yeah, it
a
is.
part loading, right?
Yeah. This one has 24.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's moving and it's going back and forth and stuff and we're making parts. Yesterday was like the first day and today I have training, I believe, on Monday. So and it's easy. Like I've been moving it back and forth, just watching them. It's not hard.
That's really cool. That's excellent. Is there enough room on the table that if you need to set up vices outside of your pallet changer work envelope that you can still do that?
Yeah, so on my VF2, I still have my Kurt Weiss, but I think I'll just keep that one for only the Trinity. And then on my VF3, I have the palette and I have two Kurt Weisses, but I think I'll take one out and leave just one Kurt Weiss because for my dad, he does a lot of frames and sometimes I'll just have to, drill a hole and these bars are 34 or 18 inches. And luckily, I can do all of that work with the palette in there.
That's excellent. Yeah, that really enhances the capabilities of your shop then. Because I know, you know, we had a pallet changing vertical for a while, and like the way that it was configured, we couldn't hold additional stuff.
Hmm.
It was a fairly small machine. So the fact that you can still have vices outside of that and, throw on a one off really quick if you have to, I'm sure it's really nice for you.
Yeah, because my dad will come up to me and be like, "Hey, like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just finished the setup." Oh, well, just can you drill this hole for me really quick, or can you open up
Right.
this pocket? I'm like, "Oh my god." Yeah.
Yeah. It's all of those memes. Like, I know you just finished a setup, but here you go. Try this.
Yeah, that's exactly him. I'm like, dude, you're just waiting for me to finish the setup, aren't you?
Well, we have some good questions from listeners. Ethan, a past guest, asked, everyone has haters, but he imagines that being a young woman in the trades, you've had some obstacles. So have there been any obstacles that you're particularly proud of overcoming?
Yes. I think about this all the time, but I still get people in my DMs telling me, "Oh, you're not a machinist. Women can't machine. Why are your nails so clean?" Like, I'm in a Facebook group and I post. It's like 1,000 of us or something in there, or maybe even 60,000. And I'll post one thing, and they're like, "She's not even machining. It's so easy to just push a button. Like, look at her nails." I'm like, "Oh, like, why do I even bother posting here?" But um, I tried to go to school to learn machining. I went to a community college, and then the teacher was very sexist, and he would like the one of the first days. I was the only woman in the class too, and one of the first days he was like telling the students like, and he had told me too, like women don't machine, like you don't like belong here. And so I'm like, okay, but I needed to take the class because I needed to learn. Like we had to make parts at the shop, so I was like, whatever, I'm gonna stick through it, and he's gonna get over it. But he would like I walked in late one time because I had to work and then I had to drive all the way back home and the class was like from 6 to 9. I think I was like 15 minutes late and he was like, "Oh, like I don't know who that girl thinks she is. Like women don't machine." I'm like walking into the class. I'm like, dude, like what you can't. And I would like try to ask him questions and he like wouldn't even pick on me or just like make like little remarks. And he I wasn't enrolled in the class the whole semester. He did not want to enroll me. He was like, "You could sit here, but I'm not going to enroll you in the class." I was like, "Okay, like I'm not looking for a certificate or anything. Like I don't care. I already have a job. Like I just want to learn and I
Right.
want to, I just want to get some more hands-on experience by a teacher." And we went like that for a whole semester. I don't even think I went the last month because I was like, well, this is pointless. Like, he eventually just made us watch YouTube videos, and my peers were the ones who actually taught me the most because he didn't even know. He didn't know how to run the new gen controls. And then he didn't want me to sit in the class. And then he didn't want my input when I had already been running the two Haas here for like 2 years. So I was
Right.
familiar with the controls. And so I ended up just hanging out with like four dudes a whole semester and just like watching them program on Mastercam and then run to the machines and like make little parts. And ultimately that's how I ended up learning some stuff. But if I would have listened to that teacher, I would not be here. And so I'm really proud of myself for sticking with it. And it's not hard. You don't see a lot of women machinists. Everybody knows that. And so when I walk into a building or when people meet me and they look at me and of course they see my nails, they're like, oh yeah, you don't machine. You probably sit at a desk. But I'm like, I've heard this a million times. Like, let me just make some parts for you.
So I wasn't going to mention your nails, but Volks Machine also asked, how do you keep them so clean and in one piece? Because I know I can't walk through the shop without banging my knee or my hand against something and, hurting myself. And I don't have fingernails that stick out past my fingers. So I am genuinely curious how you keep them as pristine as you do.
So they do like I'm gonna go get my nails done like at 11 today. That's gonna be my lunch break. But everybody asks me that, and they stay clean. Like I don't wear gloves. I don't like to wear gloves unless I'm at the saw or something. But honestly, like I have never broken a nail at the shop. I dug into my pocket yesterday, and one of my nails like came off and it hurt. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh,
I was so mad. I was at a pizza spot one time and it had the same thing happen. Like I like broke it. I've never ever broken a nail at the shop. I think because now that I'm used to it and I know how to grab things and my hands get really really dirty, but my nails like I'll turn over and look at them and I'm like, "Oh wow, like look how cute. My hands are all black and dusty, but oh my nails are shiny." So, I've just gotten used to it. And if my nails aren't done, I feel really awkward and gross being at the shop. Like it's a part of me, it's a part of my brand, and like I'm not gonna say that I feel like I perform better when my nails are done, but it's more enjoyable like seeing parts and my nails are so cute and taking photos and yeah, I love it.
that's great. Let's see. Firmworks was asking, did you buy anything when you went to Selway the other day? Because as we saw in your stories that you went there, and
That giant fifth axis would have been cool. No, I didn't buy anything. I just had to like go to a meeting there, but they're like 10 minutes away from me. So I do really want a UMC 500 though. So
okay. Do you have shop space for one if you needed it or if you wanted one?
no, but my dad was telling somebody yesterday like, oh, if she wants to buy a new machine, I'll help her, and we could just move some equipment in the back and we'll put it there. And so now I'm thinking like, all right, like this guy's gonna give me a little bit more room. I don't have to move out yet. So
There you go.
hopefully next year. I really want to say next year, I really want a UMC 500.
And it sounds like because of your dad's business, you guys probably have enough power for another machine.
Yeah, so he's getting another laser in November too, which he's also kind of like, hey, like you got to get rid of the saw. Stop taking up so much space. Like, like are you going to move out? And I'm like, no, I'm not ready to move out yet. It's
Right.
so expensive here.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that brings up a great question from Routco. He said, it seems like a number of companies are leaving California for states that are more business friendly. Do you find that costs are higher due to your location? And has this impacted your business?
So I'm in the Bay Area. I'm like 20, 30 minutes from San Francisco. I'm in Hayward. Um, I've seen like PG&E bills, at my dad's desk. I know how much he pays for rent, and then I hear people that are like in Vermont and have 3 acres and paid like $300,000,
Right.
and where like the building across the street that he has now is like 4 million or something, and it's like nowhere near the size of that.
Right.
It's scary because originally I had planned to open up my shop and then move my shop to the valley, where everything is a lot cheaper. My overhead would probably be about, I don't know, probably about 10,000 a month. But I don't want to move to the valley anymore. All my customers are here. Tech is here. The Bay Area is a lot funner too. It's going to be a challenge. I either make the decision once I get bigger to move out or stay here. But I love California. I love being in the Bay. My family's here. My friends are here. And I think I'm willing to make the sacrifices to pay more to be here. I don't really plan on moving to a different state or country. I really like being here, and I'm really lucky that my shop is in my dad's company now, because I can afford to take a Friday off or work half a Friday. But if I was here by myself in the Bay, my dad and I have had multiple like conversations like, hey, like you I would not make it. It's crazy expensive, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, definitely. In talking with other people, other peers across the country, have you noticed things like materials and tools being more expensive too?
Yeah, I have my friend that's in Denver, and he works for Lockheed Martin, and we're always talking, like comparing things, and because he has family here, and he'll come visit, and I'll go visit, and he's like, "Damn, like I can't even believe like the gas prices are like $2 more," and or I'll show him like, "Yeah, this is what I pay for material. Like, what do you think it's like over there?" And he's like, "Yo, like I could send you material." I was like, "But it's like the shipping cost is gonna be." I was like, ultimately, it's the same, and it sucks. But again, like it's just being here in California. Everybody wants to be here in California, but we have wildfires. We're in a drought and overpopulated, but
Right.
it's still
But it's
great.
also, some of the most beautiful country out there. And like every time I go to California, I'm like, man, if I could afford to live here, like I understand why people want to live here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's, yeah. I know I buy a fair bit of material online from vendors in other states, even because even with shipping, it's significantly cheaper than local prices some of the
yeah,
time. So yeah, it's tough for sure. So NYDLS 30 had some questions about England, and you just went there for the Fusion Sync Up, I think they called
yeah.
it.
The life sync up. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. How did that go? What did you do when you were there? What kind of things did you learn that you can share? I know there was a lot of things that are not out yet. So
Yeah.
what can you share about it? What was the highlight, low light, all of that?
So that whole trip was actually sponsored too. They reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, if we, paid for everything, accommodated everything, would you come to Birmingham?" And I'm like, "Oh, Birmingham, like Arkansas or like or like the UK?" Because I was like, "No, there's no way they're gonna send me to the UK." And he was like, "The UK." I was like, "Oh my god!" I called my sister. I was like, "Fusion's gonna send me to the UK." And so yeah, I said yeah, and it was really cool because I posted on Instagram that I was going, and I had a lot of people tell me, like, I was like, hey, I want to go to some shops. I want to meet some people while I'm there. And I was only there from Tuesday afternoon, and I was back here Friday afternoon. So I was only there 2 full days, Wednesday and Thursday. And so Freddie, the vacuum company, the orange vacuum company,
Hmm.
so
Freddie?
yeah, Freddie. So they picked me up from the airport and like took me all the way to my hotel in Birmingham. And then we got to meet Matt and Amy from Evolve, which are they have a shop along the way. That was really really cool because he has a shop that it just inspired me, to get my own building and to move out and to have a team. He has, his partner Amy that she works upstairs and sometimes also runs parts with him. He has his brother working there with him. He has two other girls that work there for him. One of them designs, one of them's an intern, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I can't wait to have a team of like women and or anyone just to hang out and all come together and do talk shop and just make parts together would be so cool. But so I went there because I'm a Fusion user, and they basically wanted some customers to talk in a panel and discuss what they do and don't like about Fusion. And they chose me to be at this panel, and I thought it was going to be like in a room of 20 people. So then when Al Watmo goes on stage, or he's at the front talking, he says, hey, like, can everyone from the panel come up? And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, there's a room of like 100 people. I'm like, damn it. So I'm like, okay, I go. And I'm the only woman on this panel, and there's like 7 other men. So I'm like, yeah, like if you guys haven't noticed, like I'm the only woman up here. It's so cool. But I got to talk about, me and what my plans are for the future and what I do and don't like about Fusion. I got to meet a lot of people from Instagram, and I got to meet people that are here in Oakland that are like 10 minutes from me that now are connecting me with more people and more women that are machinists in my area, which is awesome. Um, what else did we had a lot of so they give you a list of like classes that are going on, and you could pick what kind of classes you want to do. I learned more stuff about in-process probing. They have really crazy equipment at their shop. um, we learned some fifth axis stuff. uh, what else did we do?
I know
It
I saw you
was
led that questionnaire thing with Al, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I did that. Yeah, I like took over their Instagram. Yeah, things like that. That's so cool. They're like, "Hey Melissa, do you want to like, like do a live with Al Walmo?" I'm like, "Yeah, what the like of course I do." That's so And I had never met Al. I had just we're like in this live sync up every Friday that we do. I'm part of like this cab program, and we just talk about the new updates and what's coming out and what we do and don't like again. And they're constantly making updates to Fusion, which is great, and it's also a problem because if you use Fusion it will mess you up. But it's I don't know if any other companies do this, but they brought like probably 200 people from around the world, and then they picked I don't know how many people they picked to send out there, like me. But we get to talk about what we do like about Fusion, we get to talk about what we don't like about Fusion, and they're finding ways to make these improvements to Fusion to make our lives, the users, easier. And so again, I did another presentation where I showed everyone my day-to-day life and how Fusion helps me and how it doesn't help me, and what I hope to gain and see from Fusion in the future that's going to make my life easier. And they have so many updates coming out and really cool stuff that I'm looking forward to using, but again, like I can't talk about it.
Right.
And which is also cool. I also met John Saunders
Uh-huh.
with Saunders Machine Works. We were like on the same bus, and I was like the last one to get on the bus, and I'm like looking up, and I see him, and like he looks at me, and then I like sit down, and I'm like, oh my god, like that's John Saunders. And then I turn around, I'm like, I said, "Oh, you're John Saunders, right?" He's like, "Yeah, who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Melissa with M95 Machining. Like, I follow you on Instagram. You're so cool, blah blah." I totally fangirled. But later on, later on that same day, everyone like went out for drinks and stuff. And like I got to speak to him a little bit, and that was really cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I've talked to a few other people who went to Birmingham, and it sounded like it was really cool to get to talk directly to the developers and like
Hmm.
hear the real reason that some choices are made. Because I know a
Yeah.
lot of us Fusion users, something gets changed, and you're like, what idiot did this, or like, why would they do that? But like, I'm sure it was really valuable to be like, hey, so this kind of bugs me, and they're like, oh yeah, but this is why we did it, from the backside or something like that.
Yeah. I got to meet a bunch of like I didn't know that it took so many people to create a software, and people to create the buttons, and people to create the fonts, and people that are just every little thing. I got to meet a bunch of engineers and software people and architects that Fusion has, which I never knew that they had architects. And I mean, now it's like making new friends and keeping in touch, and we're all making plans to hang out with this girl I met, which is really cool. And just putting in my input and knowing that they're actually going to take the time to make improvements and changes to Fusion is really cool.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Hmm.
So NYDLS asked, was there any good food in England? Anything you enjoyed?
Um, honestly, not really. I don't know. I did have fish and chips, and I was looking for it every day while I was there, and that's probably my favorite. But I went to McDonald's one night, and I just wanted like some nuggets. I just wanted something that I knew,
Right.
something.
A taste of home.
Yeah, taste of home. And I was like, "Can I have some ranch?" And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Can I have some ranch?" And they're like, "What is that?" I was like, "Oh my god, they don't have ranch here." And so he was
That's
like, "We
crazy.
have barbecue." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I just ate my nuggets all dry. I was like, "This sucks."
Nah, that's crazy. You never would have thought that like something so ubiquitous over here is like unheard of there.
Yeah, exactly.
His next question was, what's your proudest moment in your machining career so far?
Probably being sent to Birmingham, being sent to IMTS, to represent either women or represent myself and my company, and just being heard, like being in a panel, being the only woman in a panel of men. It's something that I'm gonna have to get used to, honestly, like being the only woman in the room, or you know being the only woman that machines with like long nails is definitely something I'm going to have to get used to, but that is probably the proudest moment. And then having the support of my parents and them seeing my process, and my dad like, hey, remember when you were here and like look what you're doing now. I'm like, yeah, dad, like I'm only a year in to this, to owning M95, and I'm really really excited for the future of our company and to see what I can do and how I can help the younger generation of women become machinists or join STEM, because I do get a lot of messages from young girls. I'm in college and I watch you, I follow your story. Now I want to be an engineer. Now I'm motivated, or now I want to be a machinist, or you're the reason why, I'm going to take machining classes. And I went to Laney College the other day, that's here in Oakland, and the professor told me, hey, like 35% of the students this year are women. And I'm
Wow.
like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. He was like, I haven't read the surveys on how they found us, or, what why they're interested in the trade, but I know he did text me and he said, hey, like one of the women that's coming into the shop, she's a young lady, and she said, I follow M95 Machining, and I found out about the college and I found out about the trade, and I want to take a couple classes.
That's wonderful.
So that's, yeah, that's it's I feel like I'm changing a little bit of the world, so it's really nice.
Yeah, that's great. Because yeah, I know that like I look at my podcast analytics or something, and it is 90 something percent male.
Yep.
And in all the jobs I've worked at, we've had women. Actually, the last job I worked at had probably the most women I've ever seen in a shop. Like all of our managers were women,
Hmm.
which was really cool. But yeah, it seems few and far between. It's definitely a very male dominated trade so far.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, I'm
it's
hoping
great to
to
hear those
change that.
changing. Yeah.
Yeah.
His next question was, what has been your biggest screw up in your machining career so far?
Dude, I mess up like every day. I don't know. I don't know. Probably my biggest mess up. I do make mistakes like quoting things too high, and I don't end up getting the job. I'm trying to fix that. I, had to teach myself how to quote too. And before, I never had a problem with getting jobs. Like everybody was just like, yeah, yeah, here you go. Nobody ever really complained about my prices. And now, like, my prices are high, or my dad especially is like, yo, like your prices are like 33% higher than everybody else's, or 20%, like you need to watch out with your quotes. I'm like, okay. Then somebody else told me that, and I'm like, these are ultimately, like, these are going to cost me a lot of money, because I'm competing with a lot of people, and I should be watching things like that. I think right now that's my biggest problem. But in my career, I don't, probably like crashing the spindle like over and over when I first started.
Well, what's your worst crash then? Do you have any interesting crash stories? I know we all have done stupid things and, have things that stick with us forever.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Like I was so traumatized, and I feel like I would close my eyes and I would just see it and hear it. But like the tool wouldn't be in there, and then it would go call up tool 6, and there's nothing in there, and it just comes crashing down to the table or however
Ooh,
far. Honestly, like that happened a handful of times, and I didn't know that you should get your machine serviced once a year or twice a year. The people that came in and moved all my equipment around and had everything dialed in, he said, hey, people get their machines. Some customers get their machines dialed in like twice a year. Like, how often do you do it? And I'm like,
right.
what do you mean? Like, what do you mean dialed in? Like leveled and everything? He said, yeah. I was like, I've never done that, and I've had these machines for 5 years. He was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. Like, I didn't know how to do that. And like now that everything is dialed in, everything is calibrated, I'm doing in process probing. It's honestly like changed my life. I'm like, I don't care if I have to spend money, to get this done once a year, twice a year. If my parts are gonna come out better, if I'm gonna walk into the shop and just be a little bit happier with the way that my jobs are coming out, then yeah, it's something I'm gonna do. But I'm learning every day. There's so much to learn. I would say the crashing probably when I first started is still like it's still scary.
I mean, if it prevents you from doing it more in the future, then that's a good lesson to learn. Because I know we all, I still have deep memories of like the first crashes I did when I first started working in the shop. And like it I remember the sound. I remember like having to walk the broken face mill up to my boss and show him what I did and all that. Like it will stay with me probably forever.
Yeah. And that's the only way that we grow, right? Making
Yeah,
mistakes.
exactly. Yeah, but yeah, as far as preventative maintenance, it's expensive, but yeah, like you said, it's 100% worth it because like nothing is more expensive than unplanned downtime.
Hmm.
Like if you got a job waiting and your customer's like, oh, I needed it in 2 days, then all of a sudden your machine's down because of something that you could have easily caught in a PM, every 6 months.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be kicking yourself for it. So I completely agree. His next question was, how much manual coding of macros, go-to subs, dprint, all that stuff are you doing? Or are you trying to just post everything straight out of Fusion?
I post everything straight out of Fusion. I don't know like macros or anything, but I've been working a lot now that I got the Trinity system. I've been working a lot with Chris Zabatini. I've been tagging him in a lot of my stories. So he owns Zabatini Consulting, and he's a really really badass engineer. And so we were working. I had a walk in on Saturday, and my dad called me and was like, "Hey, somebody's gonna go by the shop and just make the hole bigger." I was like, "Okay." And so this guy comes in and like these little cast iron balls, and I like reach in the bag. I'm like, "What the heck is this?" And I'm like, oh, like I like show. He's like, "What?" Chris is there with me, and we're like working. He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Dude, like, what? I don't even know how to hold this. Like, I have to make a fixture." And he's like, "No, no, relax. No, you don't." And he shows me. He like sets it up. I was like, "Wow, dude, I would have never thought about that." And I'm like, I'm gonna program something like a quick, bore operation in Fusion, and then so I post everything, and he's like, "Okay, we're gonna do in process probing." And I'm like, "I've never done in process probing. Like, I know you can, but I've never done it." He's like, "Okay, like look at this." And he just starts writing a bunch of lines and codes and macros and this and that. And I'm like, "Can you slow down? Like, what are you doing?" He was like, "I'll explain to you in a bit." And then he does one and it like works. And then he's like, "Okay, I'm going to change this." And like L2, G10, L2 plus minus equals 125. And I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, I'm like, "How do I get to your level?" And he was like, "I'm still learning, but I've been doing this a lot longer than you have." I'm like, "Yeah." And yeah, he's taught, I've learned so much hanging out with him like these past 4 or 5 days. And he's like sub programs and macro programs are that's my stuff. I love that stuff. And I'm like, okay. And we've been working on it all week, and he's teaching me, and I really want to get into just writing code by myself.
That's great. Yeah, I would highly recommend learning macros. Like they can definitely be tough, but it is like so gratifying when you come up with like a slick implementation of like a little macro to do something, and you hit go and it
Exactly.
works, and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm in the matrix kind of thing.
Right. Like right now I'm working on these parts, and I use bar stock. It's 3/8 or half inch, and the parts are 3/8, but I have a whole palette of bars that are half inch, and I'm like, I'm gonna use those. I'm just gonna face them. And I was telling him like, oh, don't I have to put this in Fusion, like add the stock? And he's like, no, no, no. Like I'm gonna create a macro that's we're gonna probe the bar, and if it's half inch, it's gonna know and it'll face it, and if it's not half inch, then it won't face it. It'll skip the facing operation. I'm looking at him like, okay, okay, like prove it, show me. And he's just typing away on the control, and it worked. I'm like, dude, this is so cool. Like, I really, really want to get into it and learn as much as I can.
Definitely. Well, there's a great macro book. It's on Fanuc macros, but it applies to a lot of machines. I'm spacing on the name. I know everybody's
He
gonna.
sent it to me.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
it's the yellow one.
I think it was like a blue one. It said, but it did say like Fanic controls in the front. He was like, hey, like you should read this book.
Yeah, it's the Bible for macros, pretty much.
Oh yeah, it says, it's
It's like
like blue and
Fanic
yellow.
Macro B or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, all
Let's
right, I'm gonna
see.
buy it.
Yeah, it's worth it. His next question was mills and lathes or just mills. So, do you have any plans for a lathe in the future?
If I could stay away from lathes for the rest of my life, like totally, because they kind of scare me. But everyone says that if you know how to run a mill, a lathe is a lot easier. So, and I feel like the complete shop or the ultimate shop has both mills and lathes. So when I move out eventually, it is something that I would like to get into. Just a little one, just one, nothing crazy.
Right. That's cool. And then his last question was IMTS. So I think he asked this just before you posted about it, but
Yeah.
are you going to IMTS? Where can people find you? All that stuff.
Yeah, I'll be at IMTS. I finally announced it yesterday because we had talked about it and I wasn't going to go because it's so expensive. And I was like, honestly, like, I just can't afford it to go. And then Trinity offered, like, hey, like, like, we'll send you to IMTS, hang out at our booth and blah, 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 talk. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. And so, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be hanging out there all day Tuesday at the Trinity booth, and I'll be there half of Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be like walking around and hanging out at the Trinity booth too, but especially Tuesday. So I did tell everyone, like, come by, say hi. A lot of people have messaged me already telling me that they're going to come by, which is really cool, and that they want to meet me. So yeah, I'll be there. I'm excited. It's my first IMTS.
Awesome. Yeah,
I heard,
it's super cool. It's
yeah,
overwhelming, but it is super cool.
I've heard that. Yeah, so I'm really excited.
You'll have to come by. The We're doing a big Insta Machinist meetup at the Kern booth. They're right across from Toyota and DN
Oh, uh huh.
Solutions. It's going to be Wednesday at 3 o'clock. I'll be posting about it soon, today or tomorrow. But yeah, we're going to try to make all the other booths angry and just fill up the aisles with a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, yeah. Send me that. That would be so cool. Just a bunch
Yeah,
of instant machinists. That's pretty cool.
yeah. Well, that brings us on to shop news and new things. You've got the Trinity. Is there anything else new in your world that you're either planning on receiving soon or have gotten and are playing with?
No, honestly, it's just a Trinity system, and this thing happens so fast. It's crazy. I'm like looking at it over there. I can't even believe I walk into the shop and I just have like this Trinity system, like almost exactly a year later. Like we're growing so fast, and it's so cool. But no, I don't have plans for anything. I am getting like a few sponsorships deals, tool companies and things like that. Work holding. Um,
Was the
that I
Shunk stuff part of the Trinity deal? Because I know you were unpacking some Shunk stuff recently.
Yeah, yeah. But before that, I had spoke to this man named Michael, and he had sent me some free stuff, and we're working on doing like product reviews and stuff for him, and seeing if it works out, and working on like more deals and more product reviews. Almost like a brand deal,
Hmm.
which is really cool because I'm like an influencer for the machining world now.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And I never thought I'd be here, so it's cool. But besides that, no, not new equipment.
So, having just gone through this Trinity install, how intensive was it? Like, how much did it take to hook up to Haas VMCs to a Trinity Duo? I know a lot of people are probably wondering, is this something that's going to take down my shop for weeks, or is it something pretty quick?
No, I wouldn't say for weeks. So I believe it's about a week because my machines were down while I was in the UK, and then
Oh,
when I
that's
came,
nice.
yeah, but then when I came back, they were still down, and they were going to be down for another week. So, and I was kind of like a little behind on things. So I was like, hey, like I can't really afford to have my machines down for another week. And as a business owner, like now I understand my dad would like, I would see him stressed out before. And now I get like now I understand because I'm looking at my machines and I'm like, no, like I'm freaking out. I'm losing sleep. Like, no, this cannot happen. So, a couple things happened and my machines were up the next day and we were running while the robot was being installed and everything, which was great because I could use one machine and they were working on the other one, and then I would switch off and they would work on the other one. So honestly, I would say about just a solid week. And even then, like I mean, you're only being hooked up to one machine. I was being hooked up to both machines,
Right.
and I only have two machines, which was hard and crazy, but just one solid week, honestly.
Okay. That's not too bad. And
No, it's
then
not.
I know you have training coming up this next week, but from what you know now, how's the programming going to be for it? Like, do you just load all your programs into the Haas control and then the Trinity tells it which one to grab, or?
Yeah, so basically now instead of loading my saving my programs to the memory of my host, I save them to the user data, and then on there there's like a my robot section, and then I'll save them onto there and just run everything through there. I click the program on the Trinity system, and then I click start on my machine, and then it does everything else for me.
That is super cool.
Yeah, because I've been just using it with Zapatini, and he's like I've been watching him, and then I'll get in front of it, and I'm like making it move, making it switch pallets already. Like it's honest. I think it's easier than like learning how to run a hoss.
That's really cool because yeah, that they can seem very intimidating,
Yeah,
robots and
yeah.
and palletized systems. So that's great to hear that it's going to be that easy. So, what is the 5-year plan for M95? Where do you see yourself in the coming years? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish?
So I really hope to grow my YouTube channel and become more sort of venture off into just doing YouTube eventually. Of course, I want to move out. I want to move out. It's like a really big goal of mine to just have a shop, and have my dad come over and be like, hey, this is what I'm working on. Like, check out this new machine I just got, dad.
Hmm.
Kind of, kind of be like him in a way, but grow my YouTube channel, grow my following. I did get like a kind of like a teaching position if I would ever want to teach at a college. And I don't think necessarily that's something I would want to do. I think I would really like to teach maybe in house or host like, like little seminars and things like that for women, and just bringing more women into the trade and making them feel as comfortable as possible. Because I had a very difficult time learning, and a very, very difficult time feeling comfortable and getting people to take me seriously. So ultimately, I want to grow my YouTube channel. I want to be known, and I want women to feel comfortable being machinists, being engineers, becoming business owner, opening up their own shop, working in a male dominated industry. And I hope that, in 5 years, I can, have a whole team of women, men, everybody just come together. But especially women, it's so hard. I've had such a hard time, and I still do, and I don't think it's ever gonna go away. But I hope to have a building by then, have a whole team by then. If I could have just 6 machines and no fifth axis and have like a really, really badass fifth axis, I I don't think I would ask for anything more.
Okay, that's great. Well, that brings us on to what did you research this week, which is a question I ask every guest every week. And it's what's been popping up in your browser. Doesn't need to be machining related. It can just be, whatever you've been researching. It's just always cool to see what other people in the trade are interested in. I've had people talk about stuff for their new baby, car stuff, machining, everything in between.
Right now, honestly, it's like, what am I gonna wear to IMTS? Honestly, I'm like, I've had so many meetings about this, and like, I was at when I went to Selway, it was a IMTS meeting, and then I was like, okay, like I just want to know like what kind of vibe it is. Like, am I gonna be standing all day? Like, what does our booth look like? And I saw what our booth looked like. I was like, do I have time to sit? Like, am I gonna be able to bring like a backpack? And then we were watching like an YouTube video, and this ad came up, and Andrew Selway said, "You see this guy right here? This is what everyone is gonna look like." It was like a blue button up and some slacks. Every guy's gonna look at this. You wear whatever you want. You wear a whole pink suit, like you stand out. Wear whatever you want. And I was like, okay. So I've been having a really hard time like figuring out and finding outfits, but yeah, that's all I'm thinking about right now, really.
That's great. Is
Yeah.
there anything that you are going to be looking for specifically at IMTS for your shop?
For my shop,
Yeah.
probably a better like work holding and new end mills and things like that. I want to try new things. I've always only used my Kurt Bices. Like everything I've ever done has been in a Kurt Bice. And now I have some stuff from Shunk. And I see all the possibilities in a tiny little Shunk vise. I'm
Mm-hmm.
so excited to use them. And I'm getting different end mills, like different MCO,
Mm-hmm.
different MCO end mills that are like new, and I've never new roughing end mills. And I'm like, you either love it or you hate it, but you'll never know if you don't try it. So I'm honestly just looking for better drills, better end mills, and it's it's honestly they're pricey, but it's so worth it.
So worth it. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I that was one of the like kind of founding tenets of Brad and my shop was we were tired of working at places that would, use cut rate tools. Like I worked at a shop once where, we'd have like a 50 or 100 piece production order, and I like in like hardened 4140, and I'd be
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I need this corner radius end mill." And they'd like, "Oh, well, you could just go grab this, shitty thing out of the drawer and stone a radius on the corner and then use that." I'm like, "No, that'll last like 3 parts. Like, let's get the good stuff because
Yeah.
you should have the margin in it for it." So
Honestly, and I get
I'm
so
right there with you.
excited. I get so excited with new drills and end mills, and it's something I thought that would never happen. But I mean, I never had to pay for end mills until like last year, and so I didn't really know what things cost. And I would just
Uh-huh.
like, Dad, I need this. Dad, I need that. And I was ordering all the end mills and everything for when I was working for him. And then eventually he got to a point where he was like, "Hey, you need to ask for quotes." And I'm like, "Why would I do that? Like, if I need these end mills, like, how do you expect me to make parts without these?" He was like, "No, like, you don't need to be buying whatever end mills." And I'm like, now I get it, but I'll buy helical. I'll buy, I have a couple Mitsubishi ones that I really like. I have the MCO ones that I really like, and I have some new MCO that just got here, which I'm really excited to try again. But honestly, like, it doesn't matter. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it's a lot of fun trying out new stuff and kind of seeing where you can push things and figuring out what your taste is. Like, there's yes, there are better and worse end mills out there, but there are also like certain things that people prioritize over other. It might be tool life, it might be accuracy, it might be, the specific grind they like better, they like the way it sounds in their machine.
Hmm.
So it really is, it's finding your flavor of end mill that works for your programming style and machine style.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It was great to get to talk to you one on one and hear all your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Thanks to all the Patreon members who support shows like this. Let me send Melissa headsets so you guys have decent audio. And thanks everyone for listening. I'll be back next week.